African leaders have proposed creating a special fund to combat terrorism on the continent. They announced the idea after Nairobi talks on a problem highlighted on Tuesday by capture of a town in northeastern Nigeria by Boko Haram militants. Now, fighting killed scores of people, according to security forces, and sent at least 5,000 fleeing. President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, where Al-Shabaab gunmen last September killed 67 people in a raid on a shopping mall, said African countries should stand together against the threat of Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab. Sorts of Africa has been ravaged by Islamist insurgencies, with the likes of Boko Haram launching attacks in Nigeria and Cameroon, while Somalia's Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab rebels have struck at targets in Kenya and Uganda. The idea of the fund was mooted by Uhuru Kenyatta and will be discussed at the next full AU summit. Irbad Ibrahim is an international news and security analyst. Let's talk about this over the next few minutes. You're welcome to the program, Irbad.
Thank you so much for having me, Kemeni.
What do you think about this proposal for a fund, a common fund to fight terrorism in Africa?
Many skeptics, Kemeni, have broached the idea that we should take this with a pinch of salt. And their concerns are quite genuine, Kemeni. But however bleak the prospects are, the cost of inaction will be heftier in the long term. And therefore, I think, barring all the, acts of, potential corruption and all that, I think the AU should give this a shot. But our focus should not be on conventional warfare and the deployment of troops. I always reiterate this point, that you start fighting terrorism, not only on the battlefield, get to even youth that have got to know it. Therefore, such a fund should be geared towards outreach programs, engendering interfaith dialogue, and supporting good governance to the health, because that is the surest way of fighting radicalization on the continent. But moving forward, Kimini, just as you made reference to the January AU summit, it's going to be based upon women empowerment and Agenda 2063 for the continent. So I wonder how they will be able to slip this through so that it becomes a major, theme for discussion during the AU summit. So I think it will take not less than a year to finalize such a lofty idea. But I envisage there will be bureaucratic hurdles, like the magnitude of each member state's contribution. Will it be relative to GDP, population, or the level of terrorism risk? Where at all will the priority be? And at what point should a country's national security issue become an economic albatross around the neck of the African Union? And in addition to that, Kimani, you know so well that a major sticking point will be the issue of disbursement. You know how bad our record is as a people vis-a-vis corruption. And the fact that Africa has no central bank will mean that there will need to be an offshore account, which can easily be frozen anytime our Western allies do not see eye to eye with any of the activities of our leaders. So I think it's going to be a daunting task. But it's better to try it than sit aloof while terrorism flares up in various parts of the continent.
But is a fund what we need to fight terrorism?
I think good governance is what we need. It's only when you allow simmering issues to bubble out of control that you need to set aside a fund. But I think this is standard practice. The EU has seen the kind of hostile signals that are coming from the Russians. So as they meet today, they are meeting in Wales today. They are also mooting the idea of having a fund and a rapid response, force, so that anytime there is any hostility from the East, they will be able to react to it timeously. So I think it is not, misplaced that leaders are broaching such a lofty idea. But I think the bottom line is let's engender good governance. Initiatives like those of Mo Ibrahim on democracy and good governance should be encouraged, so that at the end of the day, people will not be power thirsty and power drunk as we speak right now, there are mixed signals coming from Lesotho as to whether there was a coup attempt or not. So the problems of the continent transcend terrorism. There are myriad issues of instability, and therefore good governance has to be encouraged. Interventionist, initiatives that will create jobs for the teeming unemployed youth. And for the fact that most of these interventions are geared towards the literate and semi-literate, leaves millions of illiterate Africans with no option but to go into the arms of, radicals to be able to eke out a living. So I think there needs to be a holistic approach so that we don't only think of the byproducts of bad governance, which is terrorism, which would also necessitate a standby force for deployment or some funds that is set aside for such activities. So we should get to the root of the problem. Let's solve the main fundamental issues that needs to be tackled. By the end of the day, I think it's still not out of place that you save for a rainy day, because nobody knew Al-Shabaab could be as emboldened as it is today.
In our bid to save for a rainy day, how sustainable is this fund if contributions are to come from member states?
Yeah, I think, well, if it's going to be in terms of the GDP of various countries, certainly, Nigeria is facing the scourge of terrorism. It has the largest GDP on the continent right now. So if we agree that across board, each member state of the 54 countries we have would set aside 2% of their GDP to put into the coffers of such a fund, then I think there should be that political commitment that goes beyond partisan politics, because whatever ratification we do will be determined by the government of the day. And in Africa, we are calling for democracy, and as governments come in and go away, will they have the longevity and the continuity of interest to be able to contribute to such a fund? That is why I think it is not the right footing to start the fight against terrorism. Currently, AMISOM has deployed some 22,000 African forces. And it takes not less than $2 million to sustain them for a week. Where is that money coming from? It's coming from European countries. So I think sustainability will be a serious issue when most member countries within the African Union have got their own domestic problems to solve. So it's going to be quite challenging. It's going to be a tricky one, but it's not bad that someone like Uhuru Kenyatta, whose country has been battered by acts of terrorism in the past year, is mooting such an idea. So let's give it a shot so that at the end of the day, perhaps, we will send the right signal to the terrorists that holistically there is a formidable front, a unified front within the AU to tackle this menace.
Everybody, I'm totally grateful for your time. Everybody, Ibrahim is an international news and security analyst. And that'll be it for today. And yeah, a few questions for you watching right now. Do you know how you can take advantage of the YES Fund? Do you know how much you could get if you applied? Do you know what could happen in the next couple of years after you've taken your share of the YES Fund? Let's find some answers on News Today at midday later today when I see you again. You don't want to miss that conversation on the sustainability of the 10 million Ghana cedi YES Fund geared towards young businesses. But I am totally grateful for your time. Absolutely fantastic hour I have spent with you already. My name is Kimini Nyamani Amano. This has been News Desk. I'll see you on midday. Good morning.